stuck in the bed. Stuck in the bed. Stuck in the bed. Yes, here we are. It's the Stuck in the Mail podcast. Today we are talking about this album. I have it on a piece of paper and I apologize.
Wow.
It
Somehow it's
is.
authentic having that.
I
That
wish
is
I
the
had
real deal.
I wish I had it on vinyl, but I do not. M.I.A, you know who I am.
I
Uh,
wish you had it on a burned CD.
well, that would be the reality is I didn't get into this album until 6 months ago. So I don't have any media to support my love for this album.
None needed. I think that's an MIA thing, honestly, as far as I know.
So you were familiar with M.I.A before this.
I think like most people, I heard Paper Planes,
Okay.
which huge hit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
probably unlike most people, I heard it and I went, huh, I know this song. And you probably didn't do that, right?
I mean, I know it now. It's The Clash, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yep, Straight to Hell off Combat Rock, I believe, which is not a great album, but it is what it is. So,
Well, and what MIA Maya, what she's great at is taking pieces. It's a real digital technique, you know what I mean? She's taking pieces of old things, putting them together. That's her. She is a musician, but that is her instrument, is synthesizing things into a digital ruckus.
yeah, I'm more curious if she uses actual sampling machines or sequencers, or if she's mostly just cutting stuff up using GarageBand or other programs.
Yeah.
I envision her being more of a software user, just kind of splicing stuff up. But I don't actually know that part.
Yeah, I uncovered a little bit of that when I did more research for this one than I usually do. Um, Partly because she's just a fascinating person to kind of to get into her story. There's no quick way to tell it.
Right, right.
So I knew about MIA from some friends that sent me like mixed CDs that had a couple of songs from her first record that I liked. I didn't love them. I just thought they were kind of cool. I guess I knew about Paper Planes. I didn't even really like Paper Planes all that much. So I don't know what possessed me to pick up the album prior to this, Kala, which we'll get into all this, but that was my sort of first attempt to listen to her as an album artist, and I haven't stopped since. So
Gotcha. And she's been pretty prolific, right?
yes, quite prolific and quite high profile for her type of music. You know, it's interesting how, I mean, she she was right around this time of this album, she was kind of in the cultural conversation. I mean, Paper Planes was huge, and that was like '09, and then this album was 2010. So
I remember Paper Planes. I was still living in Portland, and it was a big radio hit, and it would get tons of play on the radio. But at first, they would play it with the shotgun sample, like because the chorus, like,
yeah,
and then later they censored it, and it became almost like a. I remember in my mind it's like Pink Floyd's Money or something, like a cash register.
yeah.
I think that sample's in there too, but they took out the shotgun sounds.
Hmm.
And I mean, I understand why. It was a pretty strong noise to having a like a pop hit song, you know.
Provocative.
Yes. And I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Well, should I go back to the beginning and kind of tell
Sure,
her
yeah, yeah, yeah.
story the
Yep.
best I can for my research? Again, I'm a casual fan. I'm
Mhm.
probably going to get some of this wrong. The thing with following her as an artist is that a lot of what she says is misdirection. A lot of what she says is for shock value, and you can't really tell what's true and what's not. Um, she's
Yeah.
full of contradictions as a person, but isn't that why she's fascinating? There's someone in particular who I actually think they remind me of each other, and I wonder if you can figure out who that is. But
Uh,
she was born in London. She grew up in Sri Lanka.
right.
Her father was involved in the Sri Lankan Civil War on the Tamil side.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Joe Strummer.
Joe Strum. Oh, who she reminds me of?
British born. His father was in India, and Joe Strummer. I think that's where that connection is with where she probably came across the Clash. I don't
Oh,
know if
I
that
see. I gotcha. Yeah, you're
that
probably
was
right.
my guess. Was I wrong?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
So her childhood was very what's the word? Volatile, I think, because of all that. She returned to London when she was 10. Imagine growing up in Sri Lanka, coming to London when you're at that age. Um, she she was influenced by Public Enemy, by punk music. I thought this was kind of an interesting connection. Apparently, she met. Do you remember the band Elastica?
Yeah.
Is that Connection? Is that them?
Yeah, the 90s British girl group, well, half girl group. Yeah,
A
I remember this.
connection is made. That one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's almost like Prodigy, but rock being, people playing bass guitar and
Uh-huh.
no synthesizers or
Well,
drum machine.
apparently she met Justine Frischman of Elastica in college. And
Huh.
then while on vacation with her in the Caribbean is when Maya first started experimenting with Justine's Roland sequencer slash synthesizer.
Okay.
So if you listen to her first album, which that is Arular, which is named after her father, came out
Right.
in 2005. Um, it's very sparse. It's very minimalist in terms of the beats. So that's where I could almost picture her with like a MIDI keyboard, like you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if that's true. I think later on she gets into more like the
It sounds
producers have
true.
a bigger role, but I think on this early one it seems to be just her.
Mhm.
Um,
It makes sense. And at that point, I think I can't even remember the main brand or whatever, but they're starting to get smaller and smaller. Like nowadays, you can get one and it's only got like the whole set of keys and then it's got everything else you need, your sequencers and all that. I'm not very prolific on that, but they're very small and portable.
yeah.
You just change the pitch of the keys, I guess.
Well, what I do know is that that first album really stood out in 2005. It really sounded fresh and interesting and unique, and kind of made a sensation as one of the first internet-based.
Mhm.
She was one of the first internet, like the first artists that had like internet success with like file sharing and stuff, as opposed to like radio play and like, traditional channels. This was when the music, industry was changing and CDs were dying, if not dead,
Yeah.
and no one had quite figured out how to monetize music again. It was all just being shared openly on the internet.
Until giants would come along like, oh, I forgot the old one, but certainly now it's Spotify and essentially do exactly what Napster did, only you don't need to clog up your computer with the files.
Right.
Uh, because,
Well,
that's the thing about digital music. Do you ever really own it?
no, you do not.
Usually you don't. Like, oh, I bought a movie. It was 9.99 to buy or 8.99 to rent. Wow, I'm a total sucker.
Well, and I guess at this time it was the iTunes store was in its heyday.
Yeah, man.
We were all buying MP3s, but basically this
Totally.
was not something you would have gone to Sam Goody and bought on CD.
Right. Probably wasn't available, right?
Probably not. It's my memory of the year 2005 is a little hazy. And again, I didn't pick up on any of her music until much later. But the album that really I need to fact check myself because this next album that came out, which is the one that I got into later, named Kala, which is named after her mother, that came out in 2007. I think earlier I said 2009.
Okay.
This is a lot more accessible. This is a lot there's a lot more production on this. It is, of course, the album that does have Paper Planes. Which
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought.
do you know the content of Paper Planes?
It's about like making fake IDs, or most of her like lyrical content is, kind of like take down the government stuff. It
Mhm.
always, she really makes me think of at this time a scene that was uniquely only in England, and it's still not even really here. It's basically there was a UK hip hop genre that they called grime. So, hip hop is an American thing, came out of the Bronx, yada yada, West Coast, East Coast, yada yada. But in the UK, there was this style called grime, and what it was essentially hip hop. But there was an artist named Dizzy Rascal. I remember hearing about him, and she kind of fits into that genre of
Uh-huh.
the aughts, but then she also kind of fits in the genre of like kind of like noise, not punk, but just kind of noise. Like there was a Atari Teenage Riot. I think
Mhm.
they were an American band. There were a lot of bands like that, and I remember getting into some bands like that. And what you said with the internet kind of literally destroying the music industry and things kind of emerging differently in the beginning of think sites like SoundCloud, I mean things
Mhm.
that spawned Post Malone, stuff like that, where a guy made a song, put it on the internet, and then the next morning he looks and he's like, "Wow, a million people listen to this.
Yeah.
Why?"
Or even people that become discovered on YouTube and then all of a sudden, become giant pop stars.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's how that's. I think it's more organic, I mean, certainly the internet has been kind of bought up the way the music industry was, but it is still pretty fresh and organic. There's new places to start up. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's the kind of artist that I see her as. And when I heard Paper Planes, I mean, it's about like making fake ideas, isn't it? Or visas, fake visas.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know any of this until I researched it, but so she had this kind of legendary like experience where she tried to enter the US and had all these visa complications where they wouldn't let her in because she was branded a terrorist because of her rhetoric and her
Right,
past and all this. And so essentially it's like the song is a satire on these stereotypes of these, immigrants that are going to come into the US and, you
right.
know, uh threatening stereotypes like that. So it's pretty
Yep.
interesting. Apparently, it came from her real life experience of being branded as such. So she did have a song on the Slumdog Millionaire soundtrack in 2008.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. There's a
That
big movie.
yeah, and it was nominated for an Oscar. It didn't win. I did listen to it. It's okay. She's only in it for like 30 seconds, but it's fine.
Right.
Um, But this all is kind of the setup. So there's a couple songs I really love on Kala. I almost made that the album that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's
I was surprised you didn't.
yeah, to me it's not as interesting as a work of art as a whole. There's
Sure.
a there's a collaboration with Timberland at the very end of it that is just really, I don't know, distasteful, and I just really don't like it. It just leaves me with a bad taste at the end of that album. But
I, I, uh,
a
I
lot of
didn't
it is very good though.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of research on her per se, but one of the things that came up, and I don't know if it's all the way to M.I.A, but I think those first two albums, I think she was, now this is just gossip stuff, but I think her and Diplo, who's a super famous producer, DJ, whatever you want to call him, it's kind of synonymous, but apparently they were like a ticket. He's British and he's one of the big DJs still today, I believe, him and like Dead Mouse and a few other people, but apparently he helped with these first albums too, to some degree. I'm not saying
Yeah,
he them for her. I'm saying that they were together and he was an influence, but
yeah,
you'd be remiss not to mention him um,
yeah.
for sure.
Yep. And again, I don't really understand how these songs get created. Like, obviously, they're taking pieces from other things and bringing them in. There's one song on on Kala that most people hate, but my children and I love. It's "Mango Pickle Downriver," and it's this a bunch of little boys rapping,
Nice.
and it goes on forever, and it's just so like out of nowhere, strange. And anyway, that's just
I wonder if that was sampled, if she saw it in some movie or documentary or just clip, or if she actually recorded the vocals from some street kids rapping or something. I would imagine she was in Sri Lanka.
yeah, I mean, I think these kids are from like Jamaica or something, but
Okay.
there's so much that I would love to know about just how
Yeah.
these songs took shape.
Hmm.
Um, because as far as I know, she doesn't play any instruments. It's just creating these soundscapes.
Yeah.
So, this all brings us to, so she had the Oscar nominated song. This brings us to 2010, which is when this album, Maya, obviously named for herself, was released. And this one is a bit polarizing. This one is probably like, I didn't get into this until, like I said, about 6 months ago because I'd heard about it where people that are big Maya fans were like, you know what? There's this album was like too far for me, but then she
Yeah.
went back. So it has like industrial influences. It's it's what was your experience? Like had you heard it before?
Well, when you said MIA, I was like, oh, awesome. Okay. I mean, I basically only had Paper Planes as a true reference, but I was like, oh yeah, this is a little out of nowhere for Mike, but okay, I'm excited about this to say the least. And then I did kind of listen to Maya, and I first listen, maybe even second listen, maybe third listen. I didn't get a lot out of it. It was a strange pick. I think it's the kind of album that you do need to go headphones.
Uh-huh.
You cannot listen to this on bad speakers. If you listen to this on bad speakers, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. It did take a certain, like, I needed it in my car.
Uh-huh.
Um, I needed it in my stereo at home. But yeah, it's super spliced up. Um, it's really fun, and when you boil it down, there's at least several songs that I think are great songs, like actual songs, and I really kind of enjoy it, but it's not for that common listener, to say
Yeah.
the least. So, but I need this.
Yeah. I
Yep.
think this is to me sort of like the mid-career pushing the envelope album. So this is why I love Revolver. This is why I love I'm trying to think of some other examples of artists that when they take a giant leap forward with maybe with mixed results,
Yeah.
that Dylan, for example, when he did Bringing It All Back Home, that album captures him changing. I mean, he's a chameleon his whole career, but that one, in terms of his most famous era, was when he was coming out of the acoustic era and going electric, surrealistic imagery in his lyrics. Maybe
Yeah.
not 100% successful, but in process, I guess.
That's
So,
the one that has one side that's electric.
yep,
Okay.
exactly. So to me, this is that same midpoint in the career album that I'm drawn to. I There's a pretty interesting quote. MIA herself described this as, um, well, she said that so many of us have become typists and voyeurs. We need a digital mosh pit like we've never seen, harder than how people were doing it in the punk era. We need that energy, but digitally.
Mhm. I'm trying to picture, like, what is 2010? Where are we at in 2010? Is that
Well,
that's first
I
2 years
was,
of Obama, right? But like I'm trying to place myself in the world of 2010, and it's very challenging. For me, it's I basically left Portland. But that first song on here, I'm staring at the song list here. It starts with the message,
uh-huh.
the message is like, everything. It reminds me so much of that 2010 internet fear, because
Yeah,
it's talking about everything you do is connect your computer, and then that's connected to the government. It sounds kind of weird and dated now,
yeah.
uh, but back then, I mean, as Facebook hadn't been around that long. It
Hmm.
seems, it seems I'm trying to go into the mindset of the relevance of the album then, and then when you do that, it seems like a great opener, but it does seem dated now. Um,
Yeah, her sort of paranoia of news
yeah,
sources and of the establishment was a little bit ahead of its time.
yeah,
Um, it's weird how, yeah, and she's always been that way. Like she was very much anti-vax. She's like pro WikiLeaks. She's like always making headlines for making these inflammatory statements.
yeah.
She's anti 5G. I saw a headline about her the other day about how she's speaking out
Really.
against they're going
Well,
to control us with 5G.
wait till that 10G comes around. Whew.
So anyway, that it's very in character for her, but this was sort of the first example of it coming out, I guess. Uh,
Not fully, but to some degree.
yeah, I mean, the fact that this is the album opener is pretty
Yeah,
funny. What did you think of
yeah.
with the drill song?
The drill song, is that stepping up? I got the
Yeah.
track list in front of me. I mean, it's just a lot. I don't have the beat in my head. The first song that I would mention as being a genuine, awesome, listenable, radio playable song is XXXO.
Oh yeah.
That might be the catchiest one.
So
Um,
about that one, what did you like about it?
it's it's got the pretty melody on the chorus, you know. It's got a hook. I guess I'm a sucker for a hook. I didn't
Hmm.
really hate anything on here, and I love kind of how it's created, but it is kind of nice to break it up with some little melody pieces. You know,
So about that song, I agree with you. I love that song, and I think it's a fantastic singable chorus. It
mhm.
reminds me of Madonna.
Yeah,
And did you know about her connection with Madonna?
I did not, but I mean, I of course really love Madonna's first album. Um,
Well, during this time, this was the time that coincided with her biggest exposure because of the success of Paper Planes.
uh,
Well, Madonna was having sort of a late period renaissance at this time.
yeah,
And a lot of people forget about this, but Madonna performed at the Super Bowl in 2012.
okay.
I don't know if you remember this, but she had a
Uh,
song called Give Me All Your Lovin'. It was like a cheerleader type song,
yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
and it featured Nicki Minaj and M.I.A.
okay, yeah.
And
That's
they were and they were with her on that Super Bowl performance. Not only that, MIA flipped off the camera. It wasn't the Janet Jackson moment, but it was like it quasi controversial at the time. In fact, she got fined. I looked this up. She got fined almost $17 million by the NFL.
wow. Good Lord. Good
And
thing
this,
she's done good in her career. Regular negative land.
but
Wow.
this was the time. Again, this is why I'm so drawn to these periods and these artists' careers. This was like she was on the Super Bowl, right? Like
Yeah.
this was a peak for her. And what does she do? She flips off the.
Yeah, she better be hoping the label covered some of that.
I think they settled it out of court, but still.
Oof.
Anyway, so the Madonna connection's interesting, and I definitely hear it. Who knows if she was just sort of an homage to Madonna with that XXXO.
Yeah.
Um, love that song. I really what do you think of Born Free? Let's talk about that one.
That was the one you sent me that performance on Letterman, which he was less than thrilled. But I do like how she uses even in live performances people that look like her. So she's really anonymous and into like being like you said, oh, I make music on the internet and I'm against the government. And so when she does perform, she kind of plays that up because she's like, which one's me? I might be in the center, but there's 20 of me.
Yeah.
And then that performance was particularly great because I don't know if Martin Rev is on the album, but he's pretty famous underground in the New York scene, and he was on keyboard, but what he was really doing was like just smashing the keys the whole time and then playing like three notes, like
So you know that Born Free is based on a sample of Ghost Rider by Suicide?
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I
That's like
didn't
a big song too.
and I
Like
didn't know any of this until started researching. I was like, oh, okay, if you listen to Ghost Rider by Suicide, it's like, okay, it all comes together.
it makes
Um,
a lot of sense now.
this particular song, so this was like her provocative moment before she released the album. She released this music video for Born Free that was I didn't watch it because it's apparently really disturbing, but it's a video portraying genocide against red-haired people. So the idea being that how
Okay.
shocking it is to see this perpetrated against one type of person. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah,
Uh,
no, I get it. That's great.
shock value. I mean, the song itself is like an industrial song, and
Interesting.
it's
Yeah, it's not it does not have normal instrumentation even by digital uh you know I'm at a loss for word here, but even as an example of digital music, it is not listenable digital music. It's quite no it's noise experimental in my mind.
Right. And I'm not going to listen to this for pleasure, but it's an interesting statement.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the person who I most compare her to. Can you guess it?
I tried to guess it earlier and apparently I failed, although it was a really close guess.
How about a contemporary of hers making music at the same time?
Now, this person is not Sri Lankan, is she? 'Cause that's
No.
he,
It's
because there's not many Sri Lankan people that I know of.
think of another album that was released in 2010
I can't.
that was maximalist in its own way.
Uh, wow.
My
Is it just?
beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy.
Oh boy. Well, it's been nice, guys. Have a good night.
I'm not going to get into this too much, but you know how
Yeah,
I feel about 2010, 2011-ish era Kanye West. And
it's a good period for Kanye. If you're gonna, talk about Kanye, it's a great period.
but
Um,
this period, so of course, Twisted Fantasy, incredible, one of the best albums ever
yeah,
made. I
yeah.
am drawn to the next one, which you know, Yeezus. That one feels like the Maya album to me. They've got
Okay.
the same provocative, aggressive, ugly, industrial, no filter
Yeah,
approach.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, I understand that analogy perfectly. I only heard Yeezus a few times. I remember getting a burn CD of it, which, the album itself was a burn CD, which
Yes.
was genius because at that point, literally, I don't know what his record label would have said to that, but I mean, they must have looked at him like, you're just trying to bankrupt us or something.
I don't have the guts to cover Yeezus, but I wish I did.
Well, I would listen to it, and I don't, people, if this pod is what we make of it and people want to listen to it, they can listen to it. And if they don't have to. That's the
Yeah.
worst for maybe almost the rest of 2024. We're in a free country here. We're not in a demanded monoculture dictatorship yet. So you have to take advantage of these freedoms.
So I don't know that for whatever reason, I'm drawn to these provocative statements
Yeah.
musically. So
It makes a lot of sense to me. And I don't know if we're done covering it. I really like Story to Be Told too, and there's a couple others. As I mentioned, I actually forgot my notes on this, but I have a very provocative pick
okay.
for the next pod that hopefully won't take forever because my internet gets destroyed.
Well, can we finish talk? I got a
Yeah,
couple more
yeah.
things to say about
Yes,
M.I.A.
yes, please, please.
So I really like It Is What It Is.
Um,
Do you remember that one at all? It's not a
yeah.
memorable song.
Hmm.
It
I I want to play some on my phone, but that would be a little disruptive.
it's sort of a vibey song. It's like not
Yeah.
really, I don't know. It's hard to there's this
Not
weird
crazy industrial punk like
there's
beat.
so the album starts out with the drills and the noise and the, and then there's kind of this weird floaty middle part
Mhm.
where there's all these like I don't know how to even describe it, but just like minimalist pop, and then you get Born Free out of nowhere, and then there's a couple cool songs at the end. But It Is What It Is one that kind of grew on me um, the more I heard it.
I just got the beat there. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
It's very listenable. It's not uh discordant at all, really.
right. So we can kind of move on, but she did go on, MIA did go on to release some pretty big hits. Bad Girls from 2013. Do you know that one?
Mm-mm.
Live Fast, Die Young, Bad Girls Do It Well. The chain hits my chest when I'm banging on the dash. You haven't heard that one?
Was that a big actual single for her?
It was, but it's become even more pronounced in TikTok culture.
Hmm.
It's played quite often as a TikTok trending song for what it's worth. Yeah, so Borders, cool song, 2015. And she had a pretty good album that came out last year, I believe, that has some interesting songs on it. So continues to be a vital artist. I think she's let's see. I know that she's a contradictory sort of person. She's a fashion icon. I kind of talked about her a little bit in the episode we did on Grace Jones because I see a little bit of lineage there.
Mhm.
She's a visual artist. A lot of these videos that you watch are really striking. Um, and yeah, just is provocateur the right word?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for going on this journey with me. That's all I have.
Yep. It was a great one. I only wish that I could like conjure up more comparisons and stuff. The late aughts, just it's a forgotten time for me.
Hmm.
It is tough, and even in the into the teens, and even now, like time is just so it's it's just always going, and it is tougher. It's really easy for us to be like blah 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 60s, blah 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 70s, or 80s or 90s stuff we grew up with.
Yeah.
But nowadays, anything in the aughts or the teens, when I start to talk about it, I'm like, this is an old person's perspective.
Well, for me, I missed out completely on the year 2010 in music because I had two very small children.
Well, that'll do it for sure. And now
But
there's not
now
much
they're
skipping through.
introducing, yeah, they're introducing me to cool new stuff. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll bust out some 2024 stuff soon.
And boy, do we have a segue for that because in the past, so I probably had something picked out for this for my next pick, but it's long. This episode's taken a while, thanks to mostly me. But when I thought of it today, I was like, well, I have to pick something. So I just said to myself, well, Sarah so is getting on me for not picking a female artist, so got that covered. And then what have I been listening to? What have I been playing constantly for the past week? Well, you said it. I guess your girl's turned you on to her, and I don't even have the vinyl album for once. I have Chapel Roan.
Yes.
I know the album name. The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess 2023. And I thought she had a new album out, but she doesn't. It's just a new single. And yeah, it's
Chapel
probably
Roan.
the best thing I've heard. Oh, I don't know. It reminds me of when I first heard Billie Eilish, not the music, but like the impact. I was like, oh boy, like if I was an A&R guy, I would probably try to, hey, you know, don't
We
you
should,
want to sign with this one record label that's left in the world?
we should get one of my children on here as a special
Yeah.
correspondent.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is how we're gonna get that 100 view episode.
The elusive 100 view up.
This is going to the top. This is taking down Taylor Swift. You heard it here first.
Oh, amazing.
Yep. Yep. It's you've heard it, right?
I mean, I've heard the songs that my kids have played. I haven't heard the album.
Okay. Well, I think my current fave might be Pink Pony Club. So I'll leave us with that.
All right. Very good. Nice episode, Casey.
Yeah. Sorry it took so long.
It's all right. All right, everybody.
All right. Take it
Peace.
easy.